Apamea is an ancient Syrian city located 60 kilometers northwest of Hama. The Apamea site contains historical levels dating back to the Hellenistic, Roman, Byzantine, and Islamic eras. The city has existed since very ancient times, as it was an important cultural center in the region since the era of the Ur-Helena kingdom, which was founded by the Hittites in the 9th century BC. Wrote about the Greek historian Strabo and called Baranka or Franks as it was known in the era of the Persian Empire, but the name soon changed again to Bela when the city took place later in the grip of Alexander the Great with the rest of the region following a victory in the battle Asius the year 333 BC. The city fell under the control of the Kingdom of Oregon Hittite during the middle of the 9th century BC, and also under the control of the Persian Empire for a period. In the year 333 BC, a battle took place near the city in Esso, in which Alexander the Great was victorious, and Apamea came under the control of him and his successors. But soon wars broke out between Alexander's successors, and after the Battle of Ipsos in Anatolia resulted in the city falling into the hands of the Seleucids, and here came its actual founding by King Seleucus I Nicator, and at this stage it received the name Apamea, which King Seleucus gave it in honor of his wife, Apamea. The name was later changed to the letter Fa instead of the B. The city became a prominent cultural center in the Seleucid era and it became the military capital of the Seleucid state, as it was the center of most of the forces of the Seleucid army, which included 500 Indian elephants, 300 horses, and 30,000 horsemen. From it, the Seleucid military campaigns were launched, and its castle helped it strengthen its military position. The new city was built on a plateau, at the foot of the ancient Acropolis, where the old city was located. Apamea had been reconstructed with 3 other cities, Antioch, Laodicea, and Seleucia to bring the Greek settlers to it, which formed what was known as the Syrian Tetrapolis or the Four Sisters, who formed an alliance that used a unified currency, and it fell to these the 4 cities were tasked with protecting the narrow coastal outlet of the vast Seleucid Empire. Throughout the Hellenistic era and the Roman era, Apamea remained the second most important city in Syria after Antioch, and the city was famous in these 2 eras for agriculture, which witnessed great development in its countryside and surrounding meadows, and its merchants became one of the wealthiest and became a rich and prosperous city. Participated Apamea during the Roman era military campaigns launched by the Romans Parthian Persians, making them use 3 times as a center of winter for the core Parthian II. The Sassanid emperor Shapur was able to control the city in 256 AD, but it soon returned to the hands of the Romans. Apamea was one of the cities affected by the Christian tide in an early period. A bishopric existed there since the 4th century AD, and one of its bishops, Marcellus, destroyed an ancient pagan temple in it called the Temple of Zeus in 385 AD, and since then the influence of Christianity began to overwhelm Apamea. The province of Syria began to be divided during the 4th and 5th centuries AD, which led to the transformation of Apamea in about 415 AD into the second capital of Syria, beside Antioch, which was already the capital, as well as to the seat of the Christian episcopate, and the city lived during this time an era of prosperity that lasted until the century 6. An earthquake hit the region in 526 and 528 AD, and caused damage to Apamea. Apamea fell in the year 612 AD in the grip of the Sassanid Empire, but it quickly returned to the Byzantines in 628 AD under the leadership of Heraclius, and in general the city had an important military role in the course of the Sasanian-Byzantine War. The city was visited by many emperors of ancient Rome during its Roman era, and they spent money on its reconstruction and decoration, and they gave it the right to mint its own coins until the reign of Emperor Claudius in 41 BC. Apamea remained after that, and since the 1st centuries AD, a Roman city, until the Islamic conquest of the Levant began with the middle of the 3rd decade of the 7th century AD, and in the year 636 AD, the Battle of Yarmouk took place, which was followed by the conquest of Apamea and the rest of the region. It was located 5 kilometers south of Apamea, Tel Sakalabia, which was used as a post for observation and warning of military attacks, and was occupied by a garrison belonging to the Kingdom of Apamea. Apamea was located at that time on a large hill with a diameter of 250 meters, surrounded by lowlands. The city was re-established at the time of Seleucid 300 BC. Under the name Apamea in relation to his wife, Apam, it became the military capital of the Seleucid queen and of great importance. Apamea was subject to the Romans after the conquest of Syria, 64 BC. Then it was subjected to the Byzantines and then to the Muslim Arabs who entered it in 638 AD. The Crusaders seized it and annexed it to the Emirate of Antioch, then Nur al-Din Zangi recovered it after the city was completely destroyed by the earthquakes that struck the region 1157 AD, 1170 AD. The city of Apamea was distinguished by its main street extending 1.774 meters in length and width with its arcades 37.5 meters in length, which stand on both sides of the magnificent spiral columns along the street and has been well restored, in addition to the theatre, the valleys, the cathedral, churches, palace, mosaic panels, and many antiquities scattered throughout the place. Khan Apamea Museum, an archaeological inn of the Ottoman style located at the bottom of Qalaat al-Madiq from the south, at an altitude of 226 m above sea level. Built in the early century, the 16th century during the reign of the Ottoman Sultan Suleiman Khan I, Suleiman the Magnificent, were convoys of traders and pilgrims coming from Istanbul Dandar Anatolia through the Antioch Bridge vacancy towards Damascus is home to him before continuing its way to central Syria and Damascus in the south, and the outline of the Khan Square, the figure, 80x80 m, in the middle is a wide courtyard surrounded by many halls and rooms built with large stones. And its ceilings are semi-cylindrical domes, and it is a luxurious and distinctive building. The building has been well restored and made a regional museum in 1987 AD. It is considered one of the most important mosaic museums. The museum includes dozens of paintings, and they are among the precious Syrian mosaic paintings in which the region and Apamea are famous, especially Socrates paintings, Caribou plate, Nymphs and Amazons painting. Many mosaic panels represent plants, landscapes, and more. The museum also includes archaeological finds from the city of Apamea and important archaeological finds indicating the greatness of this city in history. Al-Madiq Castle is located west of the city of Apamea and sits in a majestic view overlooking the region. It is one of the many castles spread along the mountains of the Syrian coast. It is believed that the castle was its acropolis and then became in the Roman era a war site. It is a beautiful castle located near Apamea. Currently, the construction of the fortress is considered Arab, as well as the style of its architecture. The Arab construction of the castle is one of the monuments of Nur al-Din Zangi. The village inside the fortress is large and full of floors built from the ruins of the wall, towers, and ancient Apamea buildings. The castle has a great high wall in the form of an irregular polygon, on which many square towers have been installed, and the castle has a large door topped by an arch and around it are two square guard towers. Most of the wall is still in good condition, except for the stones of the terrain that were on it, which were destroyed in some aspects, except in the western part of the wall. Did not increase the Crusaders on the castle any effect again after seizing it in 1106 AD and settled in and made it a stronghold protector of the capital Antakya on the Syrian coast and remained in their possession until the learned Nur ad-Din in 1149 AD, has been hit by earthquakes in the early century, the 12th century, 1157 m, most of its facilities were demolished, and Nur al-Din Zangi ordered to restore it, rebuild its walls and most of its towers, and restore its streets, many of its buildings and facilities.